Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 19th of August. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director at Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is the weekly video where I take your requests and analyse the share price charts. So this week we have Allsearch, Sonic Healthcare, Bowen Coal, Fortescue and American Rare Earths. So if you have a request, send it through. Make sure you've signed up to the free newsletter, but if you want our better ideas, you need to be getting the Dynamic Investor Report every Tuesday. But if you do enjoy these videos, we'd love you to share them on social media or even leave us a review. Our main business is in portfolio management, so if you'd like to open a broking account and have me help you directly with the buying and selling, then please let me know. And all the advice here, of course, is general only. So here we've got a chart of Allsearch. If I just zoom out pretty much to have a look at it over the last couple of years, we could see it's been a big underperformer. So that was the drop in COVID, and where most stocks are back up here or further, this one hasn't gone anywhere. So I think the underperformance is set to continue. If we just look at most recent price action, we had this decline here, this bounce in June, came back, so a nice sort of reversal in July. So there was a nice bounce in July to retest this June low, but we could see that it just didn't follow through. So it ended up, so although that looked like a positive at the time, we've just ended up with these lower highs. It's holding support. You could say, look, this 360 area is there for support, but we don't want to see it holding support and making lower highs. It needs to be making the higher highs. So to me, it still looks vulnerable for a further drop. Okay, Sonic Healthcare. So we can see over the last year, like most healthcare stocks, sort of back end of last year, early this year, they just basically went nowhere. Big underperformers, making no progress, but they started to move, like most other stocks, started to move in June. So with Sonic Healthcare, there was a very clear, disregarding this sort of move here, pretty clear that around $37 was a major resistance level. And we could see that in June, it sort of managed to break out and sort of retest it here, which is a positive. And now it's starting to rally. So look, I think the trend here looks really nice. If you zoom in, we could see that the daily movements are quite small. So quite a low volatility stock at the moment, just edging higher. So clearly nothing wrong with the way this is going. You'll get the odd little pullbacks, but I think this one's got further to run. Okay, Bowen Coal. So we could see for a period of time it was just going sideways in this sort of big range here between about sort of 4 cents to sort of 6 or 7 cents. Broke above the range quite clearly on this day here. So end of July, for me, that would have been the buy signal, where you've had this sort of big push up on a big spike in volume. And as we could see, there's been a massive rally. So volume's good on the way up here. But also just in the easing off over the last few days as it's come all the way back, it's also been on fairly high volumes. So look, I think, as an entry point here, that was pretty clear. It was just a push to a new high in volume. Now you've got all this sort of price action. In my opinion, it just becomes a lot trickier now to figure out where to buy it. So I'd prefer to see the share price action sort of settle down. Like this is a big range here, this big red candle. Over a period of time, I don't know how long, but I'd like to see the price action settle down, smaller days, lower volume, and then I'd be waiting for the next high volume breakout. Fortescue. So we could see essentially it's been flat since the start of the year. Looks like it tried to break here at the end of July, but it's failed. So it's just back into the range at the moment. At the moment, there's, I'll just pull up my other line. Look, I think at the moment there's potentially some good support around here. Um, we've got, a few turning points. The RSI's oversold, so it's not often you see the daily RSI oversold for Fortescue, so there is a good chance we see a bounce. But essentially we're just in a big trading range, so quite clearly we've just got this massive sideways trading range that we're still within, but we're getting towards the bottom part of it. And yeah, look, I think there's, based on these levels and the oversold nature, I think there's a good chance that we see a bounce in Fortescue from around these sorts of levels. And clearly, if we could see a break above 26, then that would be massively bullish, because you'd have this huge sideways consolidation, and to eventually break above something like that should lead to a sustained rally. But early days yet. I think shorter term, after this sort of decline, we'll see a bounce in Fortescue. And finally, American Rare Earths. So, similar to a lot of sort of these real small mining companies, end of last year, early this year, a lot of them saw these big spikes higher, and then they've just spent several months consolidating. So we could see here huge rally from about 4 cents to nearly 24 cents, big volume, and then it's just sort of drifted sideways. We could see that's all been on lower volume. Tightening of the range here, very sort of minimal movement, almost no volume. And then there was this gap up here where there was a huge spike in volume in comparison to the prior days. So that, to me, that start of August move was the buy signal, and we've had a bit of a move up. Obviously, it's come back the last couple of days. Volumes start to taper off. So it's not as, I don't think it's as crazy as that the BCB. This one to me looks a bit orderly, because you've got this break here, and sort of the lower volume moves down, and you've got a few sort of support levels here as reference. So I think if we see it establishing support here and getting moving again, then I think we'll start to see a move back up to these high levels. All right, well, that's all for this week. As always, if you have a request, send it through, and I'll try to include your stock next Thursday.